Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today we are back with another review of a watch from Undone. This is actually the third watch of theirs we've reviewed. If you recall, I'll leave a link up there or wherever it is to their previous two chronographs, the Mystique, which is just absolutely gorgeous, and of course the vintage Killy, which certainly brought something new, bespoke watchmaking to an affordable level, which hasn't really been done before. And they've done something new again, yet again, with their tropical lineup, which is 3 chronographs. Actually, you know what? Before I go all into it, let me just get the wristwatch check out of the way. I'm wearing my Tudor sub, there we go, on official NDC Marine Nationale strap. I have to be honest, I haven't taken it off this strap since I got it. If you know the history, or you've seen the video about the history of this particular watch, you'll undoubtedly know that these two things are connected. But anyway, so that's wristwatch check done. Let's get back to Undone. A little bit of history if you missed the last video. Undone was established in 2014. They're the world's leading custom watch label, and they were founded by a team of dedicated industry veterans. One of which is their founder, Michael Young, known as the Rolex bracelet magician. He's not only a highly respected watchmaker and watch repairer based in Hong Kong, he's also quite a renowned collector as well, and he's put that love and appreciation into a brand which their aim is to bring bespoke watchmaking to a more affordable level. And if you recall my visit to the Beauvais factory in that stunning castle, you get an idea of just how expensive and how high-end custom-made watches can get. So what is a tropical dial? Well, let me explain a little bit. In 1993, the Daytona 6239, or the Paul Newman, sold at auction for about $9,257. In 2013, the very same reference was sold at Christie's for $75,000. And since then, as we all know, prices have continued to rise. The most desirable vintage models, especially those in good original conditions, are still investment opportunities, and yet much, or even most of the value of some of these very collectible watches rests on something that has never been intended to last forever, and which may well deteriorate out of all recognition in the lifetime of the owner. We are, of course, talking about the dial. And like I've said before, when you're buying vintage, it's all about the dial. Well, not all about the dial, but the dial is certainly the most important aspect of a watch. So true tropical dials were something that can only truly be earned through extended exposure to very specific conditions. Due to a slight chemical imperfection in the finish of certain dials, the very top layer would change color. These tropical dials became symmetrically damaged, fading and changing into rich, completely unique colors. The result of a beautiful accident, if you will, and thus aging of a watch dial and dial markers can take an almost infinite variety of forms, including browning of tropical dials, and there's also the cracked spiderweb dial patterns. These and other forms of aging are seen as dramatically enhancing the value of the watch, and such aging might seem simply as a sign of the watch being past its prime to the uninitiated, but to serious enthusiasts and collectors, it indicates that the dial has aged properly, and therefore inherently implying a certain authenticity, which of course is highly desired. Paints and lacquers have a limited life expectancy. Oxidation, heat, ultraviolet radiation, and moisture can exert a slow, inexorable, and generally irreversible effect. Lume plots will sooner or later detach themselves from dials. Tropical dials will very well continue to fade and discolor, or otherwise behave in unpredictable ways. No one can be sure what will happen over the next few decades to a dial, and rather worrying when you consider the extremely high value of some of these watches, especially when they were bought on the assumption that the condition they're presently in is the condition that they will retain in the future. But what is ultimately fascinating about the whole idea of visibly aged dials, this is actually a fairly new occurrence. Service centers very often still are driven by service policies that originated in an era where if a watch was noticeably cosmetically compromised or functionally compromised, when it came to the dial, this was the last thing that consumers wanted. A dial with a badly faded paint, yellowed lacquer, or luminous markers no longer glowing, this was seen as past its functional lifespan. So what they've done at Undone is that they've taken this aesthetic and applied it to their customizable watches with a new line, the Tropical. And they offer 3 distinct flavors. There's the Tropical Sahara, which is very, well, as the name implies, probably the most severely, how would you even say this, tropicalized, I guess. We're making up new words here for this effect. Then there's the Tropical Caribbean, which is the one I went for, and the Tropical Amazon, which is more subtle and a little bit more darker and least patinaed. Well, I guess that's the word, isn't it? And I must note that they still offer, the buying experience is still the same as the previous reviewed Undone watches. It's actually quite fun. It's almost like a computer game. Really have fun changing out the hands and finishing of the case, different straps, etc. And not only do they allow you to customize the features of the watch, as you can see, I've put my initials. Well, it's obscured by the hands at the moment. And on the back, I've chosen to have the see-through case back with, of course, the Urban Gentry line holding the hourglass, which I think is really, really cool. You don't have to have see-through. You can have a stainless steel. You can upload images. It's very, very easy. So let's just get the basic specifications out of the way first. The diameter is 41.8 millimeters, a height of 13.2, lug to lug is 47.5, and we have a lug width of 20 millimeters. So a very contemporary size, rather reminiscent, obviously at first glance, it looks very Speedmaster 1957. However, we have the Speedmaster Pro style baton hands, standard piston head pushers for stop-start in the top and reset at the bottom. Signed flat onion crown and the Undone logo. Case is entirely stainless steel with brushed sections and then contrasted with that high polish. We have a very kind of UFO shaped with that beautiful lipped bezel with a tachometer running all the way around. Very clean, and this is actually engraved, the markings here, with ink deposited. Really nice actual scale to it. Quite angular lugs that have a slight hook on the end. Certainly a handsome piece. I've got to say, I love the case. The finishing is impeccable for this price range. Very clean, crisp edges, sharp transitions. So we have a screw down case back. Crystal itself is a hardened domed K1 crystal, so harder than your typical mineral. It'll be interesting to find out how it compares on the Vickers scale. If anybody knows, do share down below. We don't have any reflective coating, but it's so legible. It's absolutely fine. Now look at that dial. The actual work that they've done on these dials is quite incredible. The faux patina or the tropicalization or however you want to call it, it's textured, almost looks like aged leather in some lights. It's wonderful. The subdials are very gracefully recessed a little bit. They've also patinaed the loom, but the loom still works. Very responsive. We even do have loom on the minute and hour hand. The date being at the 6 also shortens the loom marker there, so it actually has fairly good orientation as well. We have a 60-minute counter on the left and then a 24-hour dial on the right, and a date window beautifully and symmetrically placed at the 6 o'clock. I love how they've put Undone at the bottom there. Nice little touch. Again, like the previous chronographs. It's water resistant of 30 meters. We get a very Speedmaster-esque minute track, an extremely precise seconds track running around the outside. So what's inside? Well, again, they've gone for the Seiko-made VK64. This is a mechanical quartz hybrid. It's also a flyback, so if I actually press the reset button, it goes back to the starting position. It zeroes itself, stop start, and I really do mean it when I say this, but the pusher action does remind me a little bit of a Speedmaster, which is quite funny. So the VK64, it's a quartz movement, but has a mechanical module added to it. So it does have that 1/5 of a second sweep to it. So it has a little bit of soul. I love these movements, and yes, it's very utilitarian looking. It's just, there you see the battery there. But being able to see it, I don't know why, I kind of enjoy it. And it's so weird because it obviously doesn't have that same relationship as a mechanical watch. The battery life is about 3 years. The accuracy is, on average, is plus 20 seconds per month. So you have all the advantages and ease of quartz, but with a little bit of that mechanical magic. The strap I went for, I had to go for a racing strap. In hindsight, seeing it in the flesh, I'm not a fan of the transition, you know, from the black outer. However, it's very substantial. It's very good quality. Usually we see at entry-level pieces, they shortcut on the strap, but this is very good quality. The strap also features the bolt action style spring bars, so very, very fun to swap out and easy. I would have probably gone for a solid color if I had to order it again. So the big question is, how does this bad boy wear? Well, let's pop it on the wrist and find out. On my 6¼ inch wrist, it wears marvelously well. It is a little bit too big for me personally. You guys know I have extremely skinny wrists, but having said that, it sits nicely and it does feel like a vintage watch. The only immediate difference is it's very light. It's only 68 grams. It's just as bewitching to look at, however. So it certainly delivers on some of that vintage magic and why we love vintage watches so much. The strap is also very comfortable. I like the thickness. It gives it a very reassuring presence. Even on a small wrist, holds it nicely in the position. So let's discuss the positives and negatives. Well, ultimately, I think it's tremendous value for money. As I mentioned in the beginning, bespoke watchmaking, or bespoke anything for that matter, is usually something attributed to super high-end products. Offering the ability to dictate what exactly you want, the colors, the level of tropicalization or patina, it's very new, very refreshing, very fun, and that's, I think, an important, crucial point. I love the fact you can have an image on the back. It would make a great gift, perhaps even put a picture of a loved one or something, or inscribe it. And at this price range, I think it's spot on. It is, without a doubt, well, simply because there is nothing out there that comes close to this. This is the best customizable watch, under $500, under $400 at the entry level. Nobody else in the whole world does anything like this. I think the quality is excellent. It's astonishing to think they do everything in-house at their Hong Kong base. They have all the machinery there. It's very admirable, worthy of respect, rather unheard of for a micro brand, especially one that's so new. It instantly gets that kind of nod of respect. And in a strange kind of way, I would describe this as and the same goes for Dan Henry as well. These are watches designed by true enthusiasts that know vintage watches, that know watches in general. And I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but they are fashion watches for watch people. And I'm lusting after Speedmaster all the time. To be honest, had this been 38 millimeters, I would have probably just settled on this, and it would saved me a lot of money, because also you don't have that risk. You don't have the worry of having to service it, of all those extraneous costs that come with owning expensive luxury watches and vintage watches, which is always, more problematic, as I've discussed in numerous videos. Something which I must mention, and I did criticize on the Kili, was the quality of the printing for my initials, the customizable printing. They've certainly improved it. And I think the color of the loom, they got absolutely spot on, which is funny because I've seen, luxury watchmakers go a little bit OTT. And a definite bonus is this very classic 60s racing watch style is definitely going to be a strap monster. I'm dying to take off the strap and pop it on a NATO strap. But I thought, to do the review justice, I should really keep it on the strap it came on for the moment, but believe me, as soon as the video's over, it's on an 8.0. What are my negatives? Well, I think with this different bezel, Speedmaster style bezel, sometimes operating the crown is a little tricky. I would have loved the crown just to extend a little bit more. I'm not a fan of the buckle. I think the buckle is too contemporary and a little bit, well, a little bit cheap looking in my opinion, but I mean, it does the job. But as you can tell, I'm really nitpicking here because I can't justifiably find anything to complain about. Maybe one thing I would have loved to see change, and you know, I would be willing to pay even more actually, would be to have these seconds instead of a 24-hour dial. With the Compact's layout, we don't have like a third sub-dial, so we have the 60-minute counter there, but I would have loved to see the seconds of the actual time. But, you know, having said that, they would have probably had to modify the movement and thus pushing up the price. The height, it's quite a tall one, but the crystal gives it really nice distortions as well. I think it's important to have that domed crystal because it evokes so much of that vintage feeling. Yeah, I would have loved it just to be a touch thinner. And generally, you know, 38mm would have been perfect for me. I would have loved to see perhaps a lollipop seconds hand for that chronograph, but maybe that's just my preference. But that's it, guys. Honestly, I can't really find anything else to complain about. It's a cracking watch, great value for money, definitely better than the vintage Killy in my opinion. This is their strongest offering yet. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it. Oh, and by the way, there will be a discount code. Undone have very, very kindly given the gentry, you guys out there, a discount. So there will be information and the link in the description. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.